Hi guys, this is Mark Holthe, Canadian immigration lawyer, ex-immigration officer, and former high school teacher, coming to you live once again right here on the Express Entry Law private Facebook group. This is also recorded and then reposted on the Canadian Immigration Institute YouTube channel. So hello to everyone who's tuning in. It is a wonderful day today, and as always, I'll pop this on here. I think everybody knows by now that if you want your questions to be answered and you can't attend live, one good way of doing that is to send me an email to mholthe@stringham.ca, and then I will answer it at the beginning of this broadcast. Once I'm through those emailed questions, which I've got a bunch right here I'm going to be answering, then it's the opportunity for all of you faithful people all over the world who are watching wherever you are and actually attending live. I will dive in and answer your questions. So that is what we have going on here. Beautiful November the 27th. It's noon. Well, a little bit past noon. I'm getting started just a few minutes later than normal, Mountain Standard Time. And I am now ready to get started with another wonderful EE Live Q&A. All right. So with that being said, I think a lot of you, while we're waiting for people to pile in here, I think a lot of you were probably had a chance to watch the video that I did this past Saturday, on this terrible experience that happened to a couple that I did a consultation with. And I'm not going to rehash everything, but just suffice it to say that because of their willingness to follow the direction of some helpful friends who are already in Canada, they've got some huge, massive issues. And just a little reminder, what they did was, in the work history section, they listed for the accompanying spouse, they didn't list any work history because, as we know, there's no points being awarded for a spouse's foreign work experience. None. So why include them? Well, they took the added measure because of advice that they'd received to actually put unemployed in the personal history section of their eAPR for the accompanying spouse. Well, clearly that's a misrepresentation. But somewhere along the lines, out there in wonderful internet land, someone started telling everybody to list unemployed so that it matches with the work history when you indicate you have no work history you wish to declare. So obviously, because of that, now they're dealing with the government, and I'm hopeful that maybe they can explain what happened. But why did they do that? Well, because they had some friends who went ahead of them, who answered the same way, got their application approved, and are in Canada now. And lo and behold, now they're the experts, right? And we've got tons of people in our group. And so in this case, they relied on the advice of someone who had gone before them, did the exact same thing and got their application approved, and now they are suffering because of it. And that's the danger, guys, of relying on information out there in the internet. The person sharing it, it may have worked perfectly fine for them, but the reality is that officer may not have caught it. So as we're waiting for other people to tune in here, just go ahead and post for me, all you awesome people, where you're tuning in from. I love to see those comments. I'm going to pull up my live video here on my own screen. One day I'll figure out a better way of figuring the technology out so that I can do this in a much more streamlined, less disjointed way. But hey, it's all about the content, right? Not about the lack of bells and whistles and fancy camera angles and this beautiful lens that has this 4K crisp video quality that blurs out the background. Maybe one day, but not today, because that's definitely not where I'm at. All right. Okay, good. I'm hearing myself talk here. Okay, I am now officially connected in. So yeah, go ahead and post your comments. Let me know where you guys are listening from. And yeah, and that I'll always love to hear that. Okay, now a couple things at the beginning. One of the things that I was going to share with all of you fine folks is, and I always try to take the beginning to do a little bit of a teaching moment before I jump into the actual question and answer period. And today I just wanted to share with you one other problem area that just happened with another consultation, and that's usually what happens with us lawyers. when people do things themselves and then they run into a problem, then they call and book a consult to see if I can fix it. And in some cases, there are ways of dealing with it. In other cases, there isn't. Nikolai's tuning in from Cebu. And Nikolai, I will be answering your question today, my friend. 3 a.m., you're hardcore. That is awesome. And then we've got other people posting comments. List where you're tuning in from. Post those in the comment section, and then we'll continue forward here. But anyways, in terms of, we've got Usman here from the UAE. Awesome. It's so awesome that you guys are tuning in all over the world at crazy times of the night. And I recognize that noon Mountain Standard Time is not ideal for people all over the world. But the reality is, I'm doing this on my lunch break, so it doesn't impact on what I'm doing. So essentially, I've got my drink here, and I usually have a little shake. I wonder if I can have it. Oh yeah, there we go. With my Herbalife here. That's my lunch while I'm doing these. And so that's what makes it possible, is because I do this during my lunch hour, and then it doesn't impact on the work schedule. But regardless, I know that it's a terrible time for a lot of you guys all over the world. So those of you who are tuning in live, I really appreciate it. Jasdeep's got a bunch of Canadian flags. Awesome. Hey, Rekha has joined as well. Rekha, guys, she is a lawyer in Calgary. She is the person that I refer all of my appeal work to. When you have problems with your immigration and the government refuses it, Rick is the one that I actually refer you to. She's awesome. And if you want to learn more about what she does, go to my Canadian Immigration podcast, and then you can find, I'm trying to remember, I think she talked about federal court. Yeah, so awesome, Rekha. She's probably like, what the heck's going on? Mark is talking about me in this feed? This is scary. Anyways, very cool. Okay, yes, Imran, it's 11 p.m. UAE. Yeah, you guys are awesome, faithful. Okay, all right, let's dive in here and finish off what I was starting to talk about. So the latest problem area that has surfaced with a client, and it's happened in the past, but this is the first time it's come back again, is in the case of this individual, they were in the U.S. and they had a timing issue. So they were working for a company, their visa was essentially coming to an end, and they started the profile at the time in which they were still working. So they started working in it, and you will remember when you enter your profile, there's an ability in the work history section to indicate that it's your current position. So is this your current job? And you click the checkbox. And then basically what that means is once you submit your profile, that work history is going to continue to flow. So you don't need to keep updating it. In other words, however long it takes for you to get your ITA, that work history is still going to be accumulated over time. And so you don't have to, worry about having to refresh your profile every time. You just click, this is my current job. And so when the round of invitation comes and they issue these invitations to apply, they will base it on your work history at the very moment in which they do that assessment. So that's really good. It's a great feature. Except if you're in the US, and it could be any country, it doesn't matter. You could be in Canada, and that position comes to an end, and then you don't update your profile. So that's what happened to this client. Not only at the profile stage did they miss it, but they also missed it when they filed their eAPR, because a lot of that information is transferred over. And so on their eAPR, this client was wondering, well, why haven't I heard anything? Why is it taking so long to process my application? So they did a case-specific inquiry. Actually, no, in this case, they did, I think they contacted the call center. Anyways, they had some method of inquiring, and the officer said, well, is there something wrong with your application? Did you do something wrong? So then they went back, checked their profile, and realized the mistake that they'd made. They forgot to uncheck and to put the end date for their work. And so they've got an eAPR application that essentially they have misrepresented within the information section. Now, the reality, guys, is that this whole issue that we're dealing with here is not malicious. It was never intended to be a misrepresentation. But in this case, an officer could look at that and say, this person is indicating that they are still working, and they're not. And the biggest issue is that when you're filing your profile and when you're filing your eAPR application, the government can be ruthless. They don't have to look into your mind. They just say, look, this is the answer. You swore and you attested at the end when you submitted your profile that everything was true and correct. And so you had an obligation to make sure it was correct. But in the case of this individual, it was a simple oversight. So for them, they reached out, realized the mistake, and immediately notified through a case-specific inquiry the government before they, in turn, had actually told them, hey, we see a problem here. So they tried to preempt it, which was awesome, and there's hopefully a chance that they can save it. But look at this in context. The personal history fully disclosed what they were doing, that their work ended. Their reference letter for that particular employer clearly showed the end date. It was just within their information section, the work history section, that they failed to uncheck that box. But it's entirely up to that officer. They could basically refuse the whole application. It's possible, all because of something so small as a little checkbox. So those of you out there in internet land who are constantly saying, oh, you can do it yourself, you don't need any help, you don't need any guidance, understand that the simplest little mistake, something like that, can have absolutely disastrous consequences for people. And let's say in the context of this client, the round of invitation was, let's say they were drawn at 440 points. So that's what the level they were at. And let's say the government doesn't allege misrepresentation, but just refuses the application for some reason. Well, then the person has to go back into the pool. Let's say they're 1 year older. They lose 5 points. And then they don't have enough comprehensive ranking system, a high enough score to be drawn again. And that is the consequence, guys. That's the thing you guys have to understand, because this is not some simple little process. And so out there, you're relying on all this information from helpful friends and people that have actually gone forward and done it themselves and were successful. You've relied on their information because now they're the expert, remember? Out there, the people who go forward and get their permanent residence in Canada are now the experts, and everybody wants to know how they did it. Well, what if they did something wrong and the officer just didn't catch it? So this is a plug for us lawyers. Our job is to make sure that this doesn't happen. Obviously, if I was representing this client in the beginning, I would have clearly cross-referenced to make sure that the information that was put in the work history actually was accurate with the person where they've lived, their address, their reference letter. And sometimes when we're doing things on our own, we don't catch our own typographical errors or our own mistakes. And so that's one of the huge reasons why, aside from just understanding the whole legal aspects of express entry, why hiring an immigration lawyer is actually worth it. But at the end of the day, everybody can choose to do what they want. You guys know I've got my Express Entry Complete Step-by-Step Guide to Doing It Yourself as a resource. But even that guide would not have caught this mistake because the person probably wouldn't have thought twice about it. When you're whipping off your profile, you're filling in the information, sometimes you're waiting on things, and then you don't think to go back and update or change something that needs to be changed. But that is your obligation. And so in the case of this client, we're not sure what's going to happen. And they booked a consult with me after all of this kind of surfaced. So we're hoping that things will work out. I'm keeping my fingers crossed. And so that's the tip of the day for today, is just make sure that you review your application in painstaking detail. Because if you don't, oh my goodness, huge disastrous things could happen. And then I would have to refer you to Reka there to try to judicially review the decision of the officer. All right. And so Reka says, hi, Mark, excited to hear your Q&A. Awesome. Great to have you join me. All right. Okay, so going forward here, and Bipin says he's in. Great to have you join, Bipin. And Bipin is a proud subscriber to the guide too. So it's great to have all of you guys here. Okay, so hold off on your questions. So don't start posting them in the comments until I've had a chance to go through the ones that were sent in via email first. Okay? All right, so we're going to start off with Nikolai's question. And Nikolai is watching live. All right, my friend. So here's what Nikolai asks. I already watched your video on this topic dated back in April 2018. Okay, and you guys have to appreciate that over and over and over, we cover many of the same questions. So if you go to the Canadian Immigration Institute and start sorting through them, I genuinely try to put timestamps on the questions that are asked. So for Nikolai here, I know right now I'm at about the 1450 mark. So in the description of these videos, try to put timestamps. And if you're watching on YouTube, you can actually just click on the timestamp and it will take you right to the link where that information is covered. So this is the question for Nikolai. So apparently it's something that I covered back in 2018, back in April of 2018, earlier this year. Okay, so he said, and you said there, so he covered the topic, and he doesn't say what the topic is yet, but he said you covered this topic back in April of 2018, and you said there it's better to disclose everything rather than risk to be caught in a misrepresentation. This is noted. Good, because that's the only advice I would ever give you. And if you're ever getting advice from a representative or anyone that is telling you to misrepresent or not state everything, fire them immediately, because it's your life and your opportunity to come to Canada that's at stake, not theirs. And if you're engaging a consultant, their regulator is pretty much useless. And so any complaints you file are very, very rarely actually dealt with, unless the violation is so egregious that the RCMP, our local police, have to file criminal charges. So, but that's a whole different discussion, and I'll leave it at that. Okay, so here's the question. I just wanted to clarify, what if an immigration officer requests for some things like tax forms during the verification process? Should I simply state in my letter of explanation that I can't provide any papers other than regular deposits to my bank account for that time when I was working without legal status? And in general, how should I state such an unlawful experience in the personal history and other fields of the eAPR? Okay, this is actually a great question. And with the whole crazy world that's happening down in the US, I get tons and tons of calls from people who are either out of status or they're even H-1Bs and on work visas or completing their studies and realize there's no future in the US. And so these individuals reach out to me, and we have these discussions all the time about how can I come to Canada? Canada actually is welcoming. The US does not appreciate the hundreds of thousands of dollars I've spent on my school or injected into the economy, and they just want me out. And I can tell you guys that that is a reality. But in Canada, it's becoming unbelievably competitive, but there are opportunities. So I guess that's where you can call me and we can talk about them. But here's the question. What do you do if you're unlawful? What if you are working illegally and of course your employer is not remitting taxes? They're just paying you straight cash. Well, obviously that's going to be an issue from the standpoint of being able to truly document and prove your work history. But ultimately, when you can provide your deposit slips, and if you look at the specific instructions of what IRCC is asking for in the reference letter, or to prove your work history, all they're asking for is your reference letter and pay stubs if available. So if they're not, then provide whatever other sources of information that you have. It doesn't matter what they are. You be as creative as you possibly can. If you've got an employer that's willing to give you a reference letter, just off the, just that is awesome. That's phenomenal. Even though they may be employing you illegally, and I understand there's different rules in different states in the U.S. and there's different, safe haven places where, people are not punished for that kind of unauthorized work, etc. I don't pretend to be an immigration attorney in the U.S., so I don't know how all that works. But there are some employers that employ and are willing to give those reference letters, and that's awesome. How you answer the questions in your personal history or in your work history, you answer them 100% truthful. So when you have your questions related to work history, you list exactly what you did. You were paid. Your all of the information that's required to meet the minimum work experience components that the government's looking for, your hours worked per week, your duties and responsibilities, your benefits, all of those things. Was it full time? All of those things will be in your reference letter. And then when you get to your personal history section, which is where you have to state what you've been doing the past 10 years, yes, you're going to fully disclose everything. And if you're working, you're going to say you're working. If you were unemployed, you're going to say you're unemployed. Nowhere in there does it say I'm illegal. But in the statutory declaration section, that's where you list, I am in the US, I submitted my application, it was rejected, I'm pursuing every legal avenue I can to either appeal or to restore my status in some form, but as of this day, I'm without status. You put it, you include it, you fully disclose it. And that is the only way that you can proceed forward. You never ever want to try to hide it. There are information sharing agreements with both countries, and Canada can always figure out if you have an officer who is interested in exploring. They will ask the questions of you later, or they will go through their own background checks to see if there's any information that is that would suggest you're not telling the truth. And then when that hits, and Reka can confirm, they can be pretty ruthless. And I've seen people who forgot to include the fact they'd been refused a visitor visa from another country. I've seen officers claim that they have misrepresented themselves and applied a 5-year bar. And that's to applying to come back to Canada, which ultimately it might be 5 years, but even then it could mean forever, because you still have to show that you have temporary intent and all of those kinds of things. And so great question, Nikolai. And this is one that many people who reach out to me have. So there you go. 100% honesty, no reservations, and there you go. Okay, next question. Okay, and this is at the 21 mark here, 21:10. Abdullah says, hello, Mark. I'm Abdullah from Lahore, Pakistan. We had a chat a week ago, and I'm looking to hire your services for my Express Entry Federal Skilled Worker application. Okay, just to qualify, guys, I don't just pick the ones from people who say they want to hire me. Okay, that's not what I do. I just print them off. These ones right here, I'll show you so you can see right there. EE Live Q&A is in the subject line, and that, folks, is how I determine which ones I'm going to ask. If someone does not use those exact words, then I don't pull up their question. So you have to listen to my instructions and follow them, and I reward the people who do that. Okay, so Abdullah, great. I'd love to represent you, Abdullah. Okay, he says, I have a question about proof of funds, and in particular about gift deeds. The question is, my wife is the main applicant, and I'm the accompanying spouse. Can my father provide us with the money and a gift deed? He is selling his car in this regard. Do I still wait for 6 months after getting this gift deed? Great questions with these proof of funds. So, does the money need to be in your account for 6 full months before you can count it towards proof of funds? The short answer is no. I will qualify the fact that wherever possible, I always want to see that the person has the minimum proof of funds necessary in their account for 6 months. If that's possible, awesome, do it. Because that shows that this is your money. You know, usually people don't have money sitting in their account for 6 months. That's a temporary loan from a friend. If it's in that account for that length of period, more than likely you have access to it and it's yours. That's just one indicator. And an officer wants to see a pattern of you saving your money and putting it away and showing that it's coming from your employment income. But in many cases, people don't have that. But they have family, parents who love them and are supportive of them. So, you know, I have in-laws that are absolutely phenomenal people that have helped me and my wife so much. Even when we went through law school, they provided us with just enough support to help us to get through. We had 2 little kids when we were going through law school, and it was an interesting, challenging experience for us. But we had wonderful. My in-laws were wonderful. They were in a position to help. My mother, who's a single parent, she wasn't in a position to help financially, but I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for them. So for you to say I have my father, Abdullah, that is willing to contribute some money by selling a vehicle, well, 1, that vehicle must be pretty awesome, but 2, that's totally acceptable, 100%. If you were not accompanying, then sometimes an officer could ask some questions about whether that money is actually going to be used for your spouse to go to Canada. But when you're all going together, it is fine. The gift deed is the confirmation that it's not a loan. Then it is being, it's completely liquid money. You know, it's assets that are available to you. It's not like he provides the deed to the car or the proof of ownership and says, here, this car is valued at this much money and it will be available when they land because I'll sell it later. No, that doesn't work. You actually have to sell it. The money has to be there. It has to be unencumbered is what we describe it. So it can't be something that is basically not, you can't liquidate it and into cash to be able to use for settling in Canada. So yes, you can. And in terms of the timing, obviously, gift deeds are what they are. If you can get it earlier, that's great. And have it in your account longer, that's great. But it's not the end of the world. But you do need to make sure that it is not a loan. And these gifts are given because of the love and affection between a parent and child. That's the nature of them. And it's a binding document. It needs to be officially executed in your country based on the laws of your land, and it is acceptable. And even if you're a non-accompanying spouse, even if you are a spouse that is accompanying and you're not the principal applicant, it will still work. Okay, and then just make sure you disclose the source of it, where the money came from, and it wouldn't even hurt to have the bill of sale for the car and the money into your father's account and then the transfer into yours. That shows the exact paper trail of where the money came from. All right. Great question, Abdullah. Thank you very much, my friend. Okay, next question here. Okay, people are asking, can you present me for Saskatchewan? Amir, I just did it actually for another client just last week. We just submitted one. We can help you with anything that you need. Okay, this question is from Farag, and this is at the 26:11 mark. First, I'd like to thank you for the great Facebook group and for all the helpful information you have always provided to help us. You are welcome, Farag. And actually, this is Omar from Libya. This is one of the things, sometimes I look at your email, your email tags, and they don't always equate with who's sending this. So this is actually Omar from Libya. Okay, I'm in the US right now. Aha, see, another one. And I've applied for political asylum here, but the case is still pending since 2015. Yes, it is an unbelievably long period of time. And it looks like you're waiting on the interview. However, you have a student visa in the US and it is still valid. Awesome. That is great, Omar. That's really, really good. My residences in all countries I lived in, including the US, are legal. Cool. All right, so here's the questions that Omar has. Is applying for asylum in the US basically could affect my express entry approval? So the question is, if I've made an application for asylum in the US, can it negatively affect express entry? My short answer is no. Now, there's always other things associated with it, but the mere filing of an asylum claim in the US does not in any way hinder or hurt your ability to apply and be eligible for express entry. So, first one. Next, it says, what should I answer for the question in 6C in the background declaration form, asking about refugee claims in any country? You're going to fully disclose it, my friend. You're going to fully disclose it in every way. You're going to indicate that you've submitted an asylum claim, the date that you submitted it, and then it's pending. And that you're currently working on a valid study, or you're studying on a valid study permit or study visa in the US. That's how you answer it. Honesty is 100% always the best policy. And if you're not honest, and this is the hard part, guys, there are so many people that have come to Canada and lied on their applications. They've misrepresented, they've withheld information because they're useless freaking foreign agent and uneducated consultant has told them that they don't need to list something. It happens all the time, like all the time. And so especially the ones overseas, I don't know why. But anyways, that happens all the time. And so lots of people come through, misrepresent, and then they advise other people, hey, I made it through, you can do it too. Don't do it ever. Be honest. If you are having trouble how to answer, then call a lawyer, call an immigration lawyer, and we can help you to guide you through the process. Sometimes being honest, it may not help you. Sometimes there could be something that happens that results in your application being refused because you disclose something. That can happen. But guys, trust me, the consequence for not and the risk of doing that is by far outweighs the negative consequences of being honest. All right, good question. We'll leave that one. Okay, let's see here. This last one that I'm going to get to, let's see here. This is from Amit. And actually, Amit, I'm looking at yours. You're a regular follower on my YouTube channel. And I'm going to just make a note here, 2930. See, Reka, if you're still watching this, I'm like the one-hit wonder here. I try to document when the questions are asked. If I had a right arm person, that was there to make notes of when the questions were asked, oh, my life would be so much easier. Unfortunately, as you are very well aware, us immigration lawyers don't make a lot of money. So there's not a lot of surplus cash to be able to actually hire other virtual assistants to assist with these types of things, especially given the cost of attending these EE Live Q&As, which is super expensive. And I know all of you guys have paid lots of money to attend this. Okay, I'm joking. It's free. So obviously, you get what you pay for, guys. There wasn't anything fancy or flashy about this. Okay, so this is an urgent question. This is regarding the reasons for non-accompanying wife. Okay, I get this a ton too. Hope you can reply back soon. I need to submit my eAPR within a week, and I'll be going alone. I have 440 points. With my spouse and child, it's 435. And so then he gives me his responses. So there's a question that says, why is your spouse not coming? So when you list them as non-accompanying, it asks you, why? Please tell us why. And so Amit has given me some examples here, and I'm actually not going to read those examples, Amit. I think that's too specific. But ultimately, what he's saying is the same advice that I tell everyone. You need to be honest. Now, obviously, if there is a side benefit, the reality that your comprehensive ranking system score is going to be higher without them, it is what it is. And I didn't get a chance to really address this in my meetings with in Ottawa a couple weeks ago when I attended those on behalf of the National Immigration Law Executive for the CBA. But one of the biggest issues I have with express entry is the fact that spouses are prejudiced. And if you are someone who is married and your spouse does not have high English or have high education, but you do, you're actually punished. Because 40 of your points, 20 for language, 10 for foreign education or education generally, and 10 points for Canadian work experience are then assigned to your spouse. So for many people, if you have a spouse that doesn't have high human capital, you're actually punished. And I've never understood that. I never have. I don't know, maybe the theory is if you're single, you're going to come marry a Canadian and then better integrate into Canadian society. I don't know. But I've never seen the rationale. But the reality is individuals have a huge incentive if they're not going to reach the very high threshold. And this year it's been no lower than 440 all year. That's the lowest it's gotten for the rounds of invitations. If you can't reach that, as is the case for this individual who was sitting at 435 forever, listing your spouse as non-accompanying is a reality. It's a possibility. It can mean the difference between you being able to come to Canada and not. So in this case, what do you answer? What do you put in there? Well, there's 5,000 reasons why a spouse isn't able to come and why it actually makes sense not to have them come. For one, you have to get settled. Finding a job, finding a place to live, finding a location for your kids to go to school. All of that can take time. And maybe the spouse in your home country that you're leaving behind has a really good job. The kids are enjoying school. They're fine. They're not ready to come. And so you are the trailblazer. You're the pioneer who is coming first to get settled in Canada and get everything ready so that when your family come, you are ready to just resume your normal lives. Right? And that's totally acceptable. Maybe your spouse, like I said, for work reasons, can't leave. Maybe your spouse is caring for a sick family member. There are a host of reasons, a host of valid explanations. Okay? So be honest. It's as simple as that. All right. We have had a series of awesome questions, and I'm going to cut those off. We're at about the 33-minute mark. And now I'm going to open it up to all of you wonderful people who are watching live. So Reka says, this is the last comment. You're amazing, Mark. The information you are providing is invaluable. I highly recommend anyone to hire Mark. You'll save yourself so much grief and worry. Reka's awesome. We have a great connection here. Reka just finished she was acting as the chapter chair for the Canadian Bar Association's Alberta section, the Southern Alberta section, Alberta South. And she's one of those lawyers who does it right. And this is where we get on and we get a chance to extol each other's virtues. But understand, guys, there is so much of a scuzzy nature to our industry. There are so many people out there that are all about the money, and that's all they care about. And they will do anything to get your money. They will tell you anything you want to hear. My personal favorite is, you've got 335 comprehensive ranking system points. But look, you're eligible. Pay me $500 or pay me $1 lakh, and I will get you into the profile, your profile submitted for express entry. But what they don't tell you is that you don't have a hope in Hades of actually getting an ITA. So you can basically kiss your fees, the money that you paid to them, goodbye, because you will be sitting languishing in the express entry pool forever. Well, not forever. It would be 1 year and then you'd be done, because then it would bounce your profile. And then that helpful, useless consultant or agent would probably then say, hey, pay me another $500 and I'll put it back in the pool for you. All along not telling you that you should never have bothered to do it in the first place, because even though you're eligible, you're never going to get drawn. That's the difference. All right. Okay. So here we go. Moving forward. Let's answer some questions. Okay. Danishwar, my friend, you sent me an email and you also asked a bunch of questions about the same thing. I know you posted it as well, but I'm going to hit your question dead on because I chose deliberately not to answer it because it's really specific. And so, but because I am a kind person, I'm doing the best I can. Your question is about your uncle who has a tire shop in Canada, and can they issue you a job letter? It is as simple as a family member can. In fact, I just got a labor market impact assessment, well, it was a couple months back, for an owner-operator, for someone who actually invested in the auto dealership of a brother in Canada, and we were successful. So because you're a family member doesn't mean that it's going to be refused just because of that family relationship. But your uncle needs to get a labor market impact assessment. They can't just offer you a job and then that's somehow going to benefit you. Without a labor market impact assessment, which is where they show there's no Canadian or permanent resident available to do the job your uncle wants to hire you in, it's not going to do you any good, zero. But if your uncle can post the advertisements necessary for a month, actually up until the final decision on the application, but a minimum of 4 weeks, 3 different locations, 1 on the Service Canada Job Bank, and demonstrate that the wage being offered is at the prevailing wage rate, and they've complied with all of the requirements of ESDC, ESDC, employment. I'm having a mind freeze here. Employment and Social Development Canada, ESDC. They're the ones who administer the temporary foreign worker program. As long as your uncle can secure a labor market impact assessment, then yeah, you can get potentially an extra 50 points. And I don't know what position he's actually going to hire you in, but let's see here. Is officially registered government, 2 persons already working with him, wants to offer a job for me. You don't even say what your job is. So I don't know if you're like a tire fixer person. Understand if he wants to hire you, if it's just an oil change, I don't know what the regulations are and where that would sit in terms of the trade certification. I don't think you need it to be an oil change person in a shop. But ultimately, he has to show there's no Canadian to fill that position before he can offer it to you. All right, so there it is. Okay, I've answered your question. Okay, next question here. Alok says, my AOR is 18th of August, but still no PPR golden mail. What to do? Please advise. Alok, buddy, seriously. The government has said repeatedly 80% of the applications will be processed within 6 months. So let's take a look here. So you got your acknowledgement of receipt on the 30th of October. Seriously, this is crazy. Okay, actually, let me jump back here. Okay, it is August the 18th. I was seeing already the next comment that was pulling up here. August. So September, October, November. We're not even past 3 months. This is totally normal. Yes, there might be someone else who got their application processed faster. There are a myriad of different reasons why that's the case. It could be that an officer that was processing the other person is just faster. They're more experienced. They whip through more applications. Maybe the country that they're coming from requires more in-depth security screening and background checks, and your country is not cooperating with Canada, and your security checks are being held up because they're not responding to the inquiries of the Canadian government, if that's the case. But there are so many reasons. But seriously, until you've crossed over 6 months, don't worry about it. Okay, all right, moving forward. But I can tell you that there are about 5 million people all over the world that are dying to be in your position, ALOC. So consider yourself unbelievably fortunate to have your application even in the queue, because you, my friend, eventually it's going to come, are going to be a permanent resident of Canada. And the rest of those 5 million people are not going to rank high enough to get through. Okay. All right. Afraz says, hi, Mark. I got a work visa denied in Sharjah in 2016. I mentioned this in the statutory questions. How will it affect my application? Haha. So there you go. And he also submitted a Schedule A, which is something that people can do. So this is one little tip I'll throw out there. In many cases, if you have listed that you have had prior refusal, or it's usually more related to criminality or things like that, often they will ask you to submit a Schedule A later on, which is an actual form, the Schedule A background declaration form. And so sometimes you can preempt it and you can complete the form and just upload it as well. I don't routinely do that with my clients, but ultimately that is something that you can do. So Afrez, don't worry about it. It's not a big deal. The most important thing is just that you disclose it. Prior temporary visa refusals have no impact on your permanent residence through express entry, as long as the refusal was purely just because they just didn't feel you would return home. It was just a mere refusal because they didn't feel you qualified. So that is not going to harm your express entry. And I can't tell you how often I hear from people all over the world whose consultants or agents, illegal or legal, advise them not to do that. And I shouldn't slag. Like, I've really got on a roll slagging consultants, and I don't mean to do that, because there are some really good ones out there. But the vast majority are garbage, who really truly do not know what they're doing, but completed some series of evening courses and now they're consultants. Okay, that should get me into a lot of trouble. But whatever. Every day I deal with the ramifications of people who relied on consultants. And actually, my personal favorite was yesterday, where a client from India, who's in India now, had a consult with me and told me that the consultant flat out said that they were an immigration lawyer and that they were the only immigration lawyer in their office. Okay, well, lo and behold, I'd never heard of that lawyer. So I went and looked, and guess what they were? An ICCRC consultant, holding themselves out as a lawyer. Well, if there isn't a distinction between the service a lawyer can offer and a consultant, then why are you saying you're a lawyer? Okay, I'm done with that one. I'll let that one go. And I'm sure I'm just making so many people upset, especially on YouTube. You'll see whenever I post a video on YouTube, I always get thumbs down, and I love it because I know it's the consultants that I probably either kicked out of my group or ones that are getting offended because of what I say. There are some good ones out there. So you know who you are, and you don't have to feel offended because you're awesome. In fact, I have an awesome one in my office. But the vast majority do not have the legal training. They just simply are not equipped to deal with the complexities of immigration. And they're good at filling out forms, and they learn very well off of the backs of their clients when they make mistakes. So yeah, if they destroy your life because they failed to do something, and then the consultant learns, ooh, I better not do that again, instead of actually understanding the actual law. Okay, this was not meant to be a consultant slagging exercise. Okay, let's go to the next question here. This one's from Sonia, and she says, my husband have slightly different address, same location in his passport. Will it create a problem? No. Ultimately, in your profile, you're listing where you are living. I should say in your personal history, you both are listing where you're living. And if you're not living in the same place, then you probably need to explain that to some extent. Maybe someone's job has taken them away or something like that. But just because the address in the passport is different, I have to assume that your passports have been around for a couple of years. You've changed residences, or maybe even got married after your passports were issued. So that shouldn't be an issue at all, Sonia. Okay, Alok says, received a mail from Ralph office that my file is approved and you will get the result in a few weeks. What does it mean? Please advise. Thank you so much. Alok, I have absolutely no clue. I have no clue what Ralph means. Okay, moving to Zulfikar. Sir, do you deal in entrepreneur visas? Zulfikar, in Canada, there are very, very few options for any type of entrepreneur visa. So when people say that, that usually means they have money and are looking to invest. And I can tell you that there are a lot more opportunities and potential options, just like the example I gave with an owner-operator LMIA that I tamed from a client from Turkey who invested in their siblings' car dealership, sales and service. And so they were able to expand based on the investment that was given. And we were able to get an owner-operator, LMIA, plus a work permit for him, his wife, his kids all came, and they're here. And we're just waiting for him to increase his English just a little bit so that he can go through express entry. All right, so Zulfikar, I never worry about just classifying something as entrepreneur visas. Basically, people are going to be looking for opportunities to invest, and there are a lot of different ways to do it. All right. And actually, I have another client that I'm considering an intercompany transfer where they're setting up an actual operation in Canada, and we're doing an intercompany transfer. So there's tons of options. You just, people automatically just gravitate to entrepreneur or investor. Okay. Kamruz says, how long do you think Canada will run express entry program? I do not see any indication that it will ever change in the future for a very, very long time. So I'm assuming that I will be long retired from my practice if they ever consider making those changes. So don't listen to any of those fear mongers out there who are trying to tell you, my friend, that somehow they are going to be closing express entry. So you better pay the consultant quickly or the agent their money and get your profile in. Otherwise, they're going to cancel the program. Seriously, that's not going to happen. Okay, next is Uzman. He says, if we have funds in an account for more than 6 months, do we still have to show source of funds? No, you don't. If the funds come from a friend, if the funds come, from a family member, you just need to show for the past 6 months. If it's not your own savings and the money has come because of a gift from someone else, I will always include a gift deed. I will. Because I never want the government to ever question where the money came from, especially if your income and the work that you're doing, your reference letters show that you're making, $100 Canadian a month, and your income, and then obviously you've got a family of 4, so you're almost $20,000 Canadian that you have to have for proof of funds. If your income is really low, they're going to wonder where the money came from, no matter whether it's been sitting in there for 6 months or 12. An officer always has the ability to ask questions. But for you, I would just get the gift deed if that funds actually came from a family member. All right. Next question is Alina. She says, I'm part SEMA qualified, 33 of age, single, experience in filed of finance and accounting. My sister resides in Toronto. Am I eligible to apply, and what are my chances? Okay, so this my visit visa to Canada was rejected in 2016. Reason was I don't have enough travel history and I'm single female. Would that be an issue? Okay. When it comes to do I qualify, that is something that I never answer in these EE Live Q&As because that's specific. That requires a whole whack of assessment. And I don't just rely on just simple little basic information. I don't know what your language scores are. I don't know what your educational credential assessments are. I can tell you that your visa rejection in 2016 will not hurt you at all. It will not impact in any way. So that would require an actual paid consultation for me to go through and assess your eligibility, answer your questions, and within that consult, I always give people tips and strategies on how to improve the likelihood. And there's also one other thing. Sometimes I have consults with people and I tell them, you do not have a chance. And the reason that is valuable is because then they're not blowing their money, wasting it on a whole bunch of other things when there is no hope, including retaining some other rep who's just going to take their money knowing they don't have a chance of getting an ITA. All right? Okay, Alina. So you can book a consult if you like. All right. Let me just see here. For those of you helpful people, because I'm a super multitasker, I'm going to copy this and I'm going to put in here for Alina if I can find it. And I'm going to respond to Alina. We had a whole bunch come in here. going to reply to Alina, and I'm going to post right here, if I can figure it out, paste. Hey, there we go. There is the link, Alina, to, oh, it isn't actually. I didn't copy it properly. Let's see. Let's try this again. There we go. I'm just going to post for Lena here, if I can do it properly. That is not correct. Wow, I got that one wrong. I should just ask you guys to post the links to my consult, because I'm trying to change it here and you guys are posting your comments so fast I can't even adjust my comment because they're scrolling so quickly. There we go. Okay, I'm back. All right, so moving down here. Next question is from Pratik. Can you please shed some light on self-employed farm owner immigration? Pratik, that's another paid consult. This is devoted exclusively to express entry, okay? Some provinces, yes, do have self-employed farmer, including Alberta, but those programs are all changed and the federal one is shut down. So, Ankita says, hi Mark, are passports of my father and uncle and mine enough for proof of relationship with paternal uncle? Are birth certificates absolutely necessary, or passports with parents' names on them enough? In every single situation, this is where we're going to expand, and I'm going to go in here and I'm going to share my screen with you. We're going to go to the completeness check right here. Completeness check EE. Let's see if this pulls up. There it is. Okay. So here's the completeness check. I'm going to enlarge this so everybody can see a little bit more. And then we're going to scroll all the way down to the bottom here. And we're going to look specifically at proof of relationship. And if you're looking to claim points for brother or sister or those kinds of things, this is what you have to have. Okay? So a relative in Canada who is a Canadian citizen or permanent resident, an adult brother or sister who is a Canadian citizen or permanent resident. So a relative will get you points under the Federal Skilled Worker Program's adaptability, 5 points. For express entry in the comprehensive ranking system, it has to be a brother or sister. So how do you prove it? Well, the explanation is right here. So this documentation is required. So a copy of both sides of the family member's Canadian citizenship document. So we need their passport showing that they are a citizen or permanent resident of Canada. Evidence that they live in Canada, which is often mortgage documents, utility bills, etc. Remember that these must be within 6 months. I've seen people get their applications rejected because they weren't. Okay? And then proof of the relationship between you and that sibling. Okay? So it must be, and you can see here, a birth certificate or an official document naming the applicant as a relative. Look at else what we have here. A copy of the inside back cover of the relative's passport showing the relative's parents' marriage certificate, legal adoption documents, any other documents. Okay? So do you see it specifically mentions here a copy of the inside back cover of the relative's passport showing the relative's parents' marriage certificate. Basically what they're meaning is confirmation of sibling relationship and parental relationship. Okay? And you can even claim stepbrothers and stepsisters. But there should be no evidence that there's been a breakdown in the relationship between the parents. All right. Okay. So that is the short answer for that one. And hopefully it was helpful to you. All right. Let's jump. And so basically the question is, yes, it is possible. But in every case, you're going to do all that you can to try to demonstrate that, to try to get the birth certificate wherever possible. Okay, let's continue going. Oh, thanks, Brian. Brian posted it. Thanks, buddy. Okay, let's see what else we got. I'm going to scroll back up here and see if I can figure out where I left off, because you guys posted about 5,000 comments since the last one. And I apologize if I missed any of your comments, your questions. We've got about 7 minutes left here before we wrap up for this 1 hour session. Okay. Okay, next question is, I'll say hello. Hilal says, hi, Mark. Hi, Hilal. Okay, Danishwar says, my uncle's company has been published since 6 to 7 months. Is it not the problem that is less than 1 year that he started his work? Well, of course, there's a whole host of issues. And Danishwar, you need to book a paid consult if you want to talk about this further. There are a whole host of issues, and you can see I can't answer all of them within this group, and that question actually doesn't relate to express entry. So if you would like to follow Brian's link and book a paid consult, $210 is what I charge for 30 minutes, and I can answer everything and explain it all. Okay, Ernest, I don't even know how to start. Then Ernest, purchase a subscription to my complete step-by-step guide, and I will punch this up here too. I've just updated a bunch of the videos now. Canadian, there it is, and I will post the link here. And my special deal, 50% off, my friend, just came to an end. Let's see if I can get this in here properly. Okay, so I'm going to reply here, and I'm going to post this for my good friend. Paste. There you go. So that's a great place where you can get all of the information that you need when you have no clue where to even start. Okay, great question, Ernest. Okay, so let's go back up here. Okay. Okay, Nikolai is replying to Irmran. Okay, we'll skip that one. Okay, Shafin says, hi Mark, please let me know whether it is wise to find a job in a NOC B rather than a C job so as to fulfill the 1-year minimum work experience as required by EE. Currently, I'm unemployed and most of my work experience is a NOC C job, and NOC B only makes up for 8 months. Shafin, you will not get through the gate. You have to, absolutely mandatory that you have a skill level B or higher job, at least 1 year, full-time work experience, minimum 30 hours per week, that you're paid, and yeah, that position is at least a skill level B or higher. If not, yeah, skill level C is absolutely useless. Okay. Okay, Ankita says, also, is it necessary to provide my salary account as proof of funds if funds in some other account that you hold other than your salary are already sufficient? No, you don't need to do that for the purposes of proof of funds. You don't. All it's asking for, and if we go back here, I'll share my screen again. All it's asking for when we go through this process right here, and if we search for, let's just search for funds right here, is the letter from the bank. That's all it asks for. So an official letter from one or more financial institutions. So you can have more than just one. It lists all your current bank and investment accounts as well as your outstanding debts such as credit cards and loans. And then it's printed on the letterhead of the financial institution. It must include your name, the institution's contact information right here, and then account numbers, date it was opened, current balance of each account, as well as the average balance for the past 6 months. And that's where people assume that gift deeds have to be more than 6 months and the money must be in your account for more than 6 months. That's not the case, but I always advise that it is for my clients wherever possible, because it makes it easier for the officer to just say, yep, proof of funds is good to go. Okay, all right, let's jump back here to the next question. And we are sitting at, I've got about 3 minutes left here. Okay, see where we left off. Okay, Marija says, hello, how long will it take from getting an ITA to getting the visa? The police certificate is valid for 6 months, so what happens when it expires, as well as IELTS? Thanks in advance. Marija, your documents, when you file your eAPR, once they've reached the completeness check stage, then everything is locked in, nothing expires. So even if it takes more than 6 months to process from filing your eAPR to getting your basically your passport request and confirmation of permanent residence, you're locked in. So those things won't expire, but they need to be valid at the time in which you submit your eAPR. Okay, Kushbu says, what if my sister is a dependent? Her fiance is the main applicant. Will they get the points for me being a PR in Canada? That's a great question. They need to be spouses. So if she's an accompanying spouse, she needs to be either married or in a common law relationship with that principal applicant. And then yes, if your sister is the accompanying spouse, then absolutely you can get the extra 15 points for having you as a permanent resident in Canada. Great question. Okay, Hussein says, I worked while I was doing my master. Does that work experience count? Okay, this is where I'm going to take you guys back here, because obviously these questions over and over again come up. And we're going to go to my YouTube channel right here, YouTube, and you're going to go to the Canadian Immigration Institute. I'm going to just go to my channel. And this is where I have posted everything. So you can see here, hey, we crossed over 12,000. Cool. That just happened since yesterday. Okay, 12,000 subscribers. Cool. Okay, this is something that I started just recently because I was struggling with all of you trying to find my videos on our Facebook feed. So I post everything here in this channel. And this one here, Heartbreaking Immigration Story, that's a good one. You guys will like that one. Okay, so if we scroll down, and then you can see these are all the people who purchased the guide and have given me testimonials. Kind people who just wanted to give back, and I really appreciate them. But if you scroll down here, I have I've experimented with a lot of things, and for a while I did these express entry tip of the days. And so one of them is here, this one, personal favorite. I'm going to stop it. And basically, you can't see it quite down here very well, but it says, does my education need to match my work experience? And oh, there's a lovely, oh, I love this. Look at this. There's a thumbs down. Awesome. Thank you, consultant. Okay. Or agent or unhappy lawyer, whoever you are. Anyways, so basically this one here, I specifically address how education is not linked to work experience. And I also talk about the fact that when you are trying to claim work experience, and this one here, I'll put, let's see if I can get the link here once again. I will copy it. And it's a little bit disjointed, I know, guys, because I'm trying to multitask here, but I'm just going to paste this in here anyways. So when you have a situation where you are studying, it doesn't matter if you are working as well. It makes no difference. The key is that while unless it's in Canada, because you're not going to get credit for any Canadian work experience if you're also studying in Canada on the study permit. So when it comes to your foreign work experience, you do not need to worry if you're also studying. Many people do both, but you do have to meet the minimum requirements, which is a minimum of 30 hours a week full-time, over 1 year, continuous work experience at a skilled level, and you're paid. You can also accumulate that minimum working part-time, and that sometimes happens when you're going to school. So you work at least 15 hours per week, continuous, over the course, in that case, of 2 years to meet the 1 year, 1,560 total hours. All right, so great question. And you know what, guys? We are going to end it at that. That is where we're going to end it off. So we are over our 1 hour. Once again, I want to express appreciation to all of you awesome people who are tuning in and watching. This would not be possible, and it wouldn't be as cool as it is without all of your questions and all of those people who went right here and they put EE Live Q&A in the subject line in an email sent to mholthy@stringham.ca. So very much appreciate all of you wonderful people who contribute and give the substance for these calls. I could just teach about different aspects every day, but when it's real live people who are asking real questions, that's what makes it so awesome. All right, now is the time for me to plug the thing that I plug all the time. This is what finances, this is what pays for me to do this, guys. I could not do this for the past, I don't know how long I've been doing it, 1.5 years, 2 years. Probably a year, maybe is more accurate. I could not do this if it wasn't for this little guide that helps to generate the revenue to help me to offer all the free services that I have. And so this EE Live, this Express Entry Complete Step-by-Step Guide to Doing It Yourself, this is the thing, guys, that you've seen the sales. Like I did a Black Friday sale just for fun. And for whatever reason, you guys seem to really like your sales. And so I'll share my screen here quickly, and then for those of you who are new watching on YouTube and are wondering, what is this stupid guide Mark is talking about? This is it, and I'm just gonna give you a sneak peek right into it. So this guide right here is full of just about, actually, I'm gonna go in, I'm gonna show you the real view so that you guys can see what I'm really talking about. So I'm going in here, and I am going to go to the curriculum. And this is what you guys are going to see. It's not the exact same view, but actually, do you know what? I should go back to the and show you the view of what you would see if you were logging in yourself. Okay, here we go. So if you subscribe, this is what you're going to see. So you can see here, we have, I'm going to go back, looks like here. Okay, so everything starts from learning the basics. So all about Express Entry. So I think it was Ernest who said, I don't even know where to start. I talk about what it is, how the comprehensive ranking system works. That's all in Module 1. Then Module 2, it's all about preparing for, not starting, not submitting yet, because I don't want you to waste your money unless you really truly believe you have a chance. So this is where you're going to save thousands of dollars from hiring some representative who just wants to take your money. Here I explain the top 5 things to do before you even submit your Express Entry profile. And so when you click on this link, it brings up a video. These are all videos, guys, chock full of videos, and underneath them are links, tons of links to other information that you need to prepare for each of these parts of Express Entry. Okay, and so if I go back here, let's go back to, see if I can find, that's the previous lecture. There, that's the one I'm looking for here. There we go. Okay, so this helps you to prepare before you even submit it. Then, are you eligible? Well, this is one for just those with Canadian work experience, and this is for without, all of you who are out there in the federal skilled worker land. And then we go down, and this is where you actually start submitting your Express Entry profile. So I go through the summary page, information that's all focused on the principal applicant. So you can see here, I actually demonstrate how you do this. So in my videos here, and if I can just scroll along a little bit, you can see I'm actually showing you how you answer each of the parts of this particular section. And it's all broken down in such a fashion that you can choose bits and pieces what applies to you and what you want to learn. And I'm actually in the process of moving to a new platform where each of these lessons are also going to be, you can buy them individually for a small amount. And obviously, collectively, it's going to be cheaper than if you purchase just separate lessons. But each of these all of these lessons are linked to the specific section within your own Express Entry profile. And then once we get down here, I have sections that are also for the principal applicant, but then if you have a spouse, and that's the spouse is also included, as well as understanding your profile summary page, how to update your profile. And it looks like these ones, for whatever reason, I'm gonna have to check on them. Looks like there's a little bit of a problem with them. So I'm gonna go in and see what I think it's because I already started them, that's why. Okay, you can ignore that. You will have start buttons on yours. Okay, then the next thing is here, completing your eAPR forms. Well, everybody, once you get your ITA, which receiving your ITA right here, and you can see the minutes for how long they are listed here. And then I talk about how to complete your eligibility section, then going through all of the sections in the same way. Personal details, contact details, study and language, application, work history, and the same thing for spouses, okay? And obviously, if you have dependent children, there's even sections for dependent children. So then once you've got that, I have a separate section just for uploading your documents, which is the section that's probably one of the most popular sections of them all. And you can see here, I actually go through, I explain everything in detail. I canvas all of the different spots, and I show you how to upload documents. And then I've got additional instructions, resources to help you make sure that you're giving them exactly what they want. Any updates, changes. And then you can see I've got a sample list of documents. And then what else? The actual links and samples of real documents. Sample gift deed here. I've gotten here a sample employer reference letter or the job offer letter. And so these are just some of the things that are available for all of for the people who subscribe to the course. And then not only do I have that, to show you how to complete everything there, I have a member resource section that is freaking awesome. It has this content here. These videos here are not available publicly. I go into more depth, more explanation than I do anywhere else. These are special videos that I've made just for the members. But if you look here, guys, it just goes on and on and on. And this is where I have all of the information that I try to put into one easy to access spot for everyone. And but I will show you one thing. If you're looking to see exactly what it's like, this one here, how to complete the eAPR forms for a non-accompanying spouse, which some of you have talked about today. If you go, and I'll just show you. So this one right here, if we jump back into our Facebook page here, and wow, I'm at 108 minutes. Right up here in the announcement section. So this is where you have to click specifically on it on your phone. I reposted my fee structure so everybody knows the different levels of service that I offer and the cost of each. But in here, you can see I've got 12 different announcements over the last while. And if you go in here and you look a couple entries down, I think I've got it here, right here, there is an exclusive sneak peek into how to complete the eAPR forms for a non-accompanying spouse. And you can actually access this via YouTube and see exactly what I'm teaching. And so this is a sneak peek just to give you a little taste of what is to offer here. All right. Okay, guys, I think I have spent just about enough time. But in the end, what I do want to show you guys, what I want to tell you guys is that as a way of saying thanks to you who actually come and watch live, I just recently concluded this 50% off lifetime access, and it came to an end yesterday. And I've had a few people, I should say Sunday, it came to an end. And I've had a few people reach out and ask for, well, just say, sorry, it's too bad I missed it. Is there anything that you can do? And I have been willing to extend that. And so if you reach out directly to me and you just send me an email to mholthy@stringham.ca or via Facebook Messenger and ask me, I will give you a special code that will allow you to be grandfathered into this special rate. All right, but that's just for you fine folks who are actually tuning in. All right, people are dropping off because they've heard that spiel so many times, but that was for all of you newbies who are watching it for the first time on the Canadian Immigration Institute. I hope that you guys liked this episode. It was really fun to have Reka join me here. She just popped on and tuned in for a few minutes. It was really cool. She's another immigration lawyer that practices in Calgary, a good friend who I have a ton of respect for. And all of you wonderful people who have watched live, thank you. I appreciate it. It's really enjoyable when you guys do that. And I'm probably showing you everything here, and I forgot my stupid express entry thing was blocking everything off. Oh boy, it's one of those days, but that's okay. All right. I hope that you enjoyed it. I hope you guys can join me next time. Remember, EE Live Q&A. If you send me an email with that in the subject line, I could potentially answer your question in my next episode. All right, take care, guys. Wishing you all the best as you navigate this crazy world. And actually, I better say I'm Mark Holthy, Canadian immigration lawyer, ex-immigration officer, and former high school teacher, signing off, wishing you all the best. Take care. Actually, no, that's not how I end it. How do I end it? Oh, I know. Wishing you all the best as you navigate this crazy world we call express entry. Take care.